Hey guys, what is up and welcome to my channel. It's a Hardback Life. My name is Jordan and today I'm going to be doing my July, August, and September wrap up. And I apologize first of all for my sporadic filming because I obviously haven't filmed as much as I want to or should. And that's because I've been dealing with a lot of health issues and personal issues and just work related things. So that's been my life for the last few months. But anyway, enough with that. Don't worry, by the way, I only read 7 books between July and September, so it's not a huge list. But I am happy that I accomplished reading these 7 books regardless. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into my wrap-up. Alright, so first of all, the book that I started with was a carryover from June, and I finished it in July. It was supposed to be part of a readathon that I was doing in June, but I didn't quite finish it in time to count it towards the readathon for points. But it's okay. I finished it still, and I'm happy. And that book is Sky Falling by Mia Mackenzie. This book is an LGBTQ+ representation novel, and I enjoyed it a lot. It's also a Book of the Month copy, if you can see the logo for Book of the Month. And this is in the back list of my Book of the Month books that I need to get to. It came out last year, June of 2021. And it's about a girl named Sky who is very socially awkward. Like, it's hard for her to hold a conversation with people or even build relationships because she has major trust issues due to a lot of negative experiences she had within her own family and other things. And our main character is forced to be in a lot of situations where she has to adapt with the social awkwardness because, one, her brother is immediately calling her and texting her the minute she comes home to visit. And the main thing that sets up the story is a little girl comes and finds her and tells her basically, "I'm your egg." And that context, or that is because our main character, Sky, donated her eggs to a friend who couldn't necessarily have a child many years ago. And the result of that is standing right in front of Sky. And Sky decides to build a relationship with this child. She doesn't know why. She's just drawn to this child. And with that, she also meets a woman who she flirted with earlier in the book. And this woman turns out to be connected to the little girl in some way, which I'm not going to share with you how that is. She's just connected to the little girl, which makes things awkward because it wasn't the best interaction that she had. Because like I told you, she's very socially awkward. And there's so much evidence of her social awkwardness in this book, it's not even funny. But yeah, the book just gets deeper into a lot of issues, and I definitely recommend it. It's called... The book that I read in July, and the last book that I read in July, is House of Salt and Sorrows. Is it Sorrows or... Yeah, it's House of Salt and Sorrows by Aaron A. Craig. I have been trying to read this book since it came out. Literally, I've literally been staring at it. I picked it up a couple times and I started it, and for some reason I just wasn't in the mood to read it, and I'm so mad at myself But then July, I finally decided to pick it up because one, I got the audiobook version along with the book. Well, I got the audiobook version. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do some immersion reading. I'm going to read along with it with the book and also read it while I'm driving to work. Meaning, like, obviously, audio while I'm on my way to work. And oh my gosh, I love this book. I can't remember if I gave it 4 or 5 stars. I honestly can't remember. But this is about, this is a retelling about the 12 Dancing Princesses fairy tale, which I've never heard of until this last year. And our main character, by the way, Anna Lee is one of the 12 sisters. And in this story, each of the sisters gets lured to this ball, and after the ball or whatever have you, one of them dies. And our main character is trying to figure out why it's happening and how before she becomes the next victim. And oh my gosh, you guys, it was the right amount of horror and fantasy put together. This would have been good to read for Halloween, but I couldn't help myself and I had to read it in July when I did. And oh my god, I'm so glad I did, because this book is freaking fantastic. It's also very, very dark. Because yeah, I think it's a YA, but it's super dark for a YA. But I like almost adult theme horror. There's also some romance in it. But oh my gosh, this book had me cringing at moments. That's how good this book is. I think I gave it 5 stars. I'm pretty positive I gave it 5 stars. But yeah, it's so good. I definitely recommend this. So yeah, pick it up during October, this month in October, for Halloween. And you might get a little freaked out, but it's definitely worth it because this book is fan-freaking-tastic. Okay, that was books for the month of July. And here are the 2 books that I read in August. I read these 2. First book I read and finished was Red Rising. I started Red Rising in July and finished it in the beginning of August. And if you don't know what Red Rising is basically, at least how it was described to me by a friend, is Hunger Games in space. That's pretty accurate. At least for the first novel. And oh man, I really enjoyed it too. I don't read a lot of sci-fi, but when I do, I usually just hope for the best, because my track record with sci-fi is like not the greatest, because with sci-fi books, I just tend to not like the direction that a lot of the books go. And that's just a personal preference, I think, of, you know, the things that I like and don't like about sci-fi. I honestly don't really truly know what I dislike about sci-fi. I might need to examine that. Yeah, I might need to actually really pay attention to those things. I know what they are. I just can't really put them down to thought. But yeah, I just generally don't like the way a lot of sci-fis go. But that's just me. But I really did enjoy this book. Like I said, it's described as Hunger Games in space. We have our main character, Darrow, who is a red, which is like one of the lowest colors of people, of the species. And because his people are oppressed, he decides to, I won't say what happens, but something happens which sets a rebellion uh, at, a rebellion happening. And, ooh, it gets crazy. I'm currently reading Golden Sun. At least that's one of the books that I'm reading, which is book number 2 in the original Red Rising trilogy. So I'm excited because the way book 1 ended, I was just like, huh? What? Okay. And yeah, so I will probably do a review for Red Rising actually coming up. It's long overdue because, like I said, I finished the book in July. So I'll give you more in-depth review. Not spoiler filled. I haven't decided if I'm going to do a spoiler filled review. I know it's going to be spoiler free for a part of it. We'll see. Anyway, this was Red Rising by Pierce Brown. And I thought it was really good. I'm pretty sure I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The second book I read in August, and the final book I read in August, was the conclusion to the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy by Holly Jackson. And Good Girl's Guide to Murder follows Pippa Fitzmoby, our main character, who is in high school. And she is one person who is obsessed with true crime. So much so that she decides to take it upon herself to solve a case that plagued her town 5 years before the book is actually, 5 years prior to the book. And she finds out more than she bargained for, and she also gets in a lot of danger. And that's how the first book is set up, and it builds into the second book. And then there's obviously the third book is just as intense as the first two. And oh my god, it's an epic conclusion. I really enjoyed it a lot. Now, the ending was somewhat anticlimactic for me, but I really, really enjoyed this series, and I definitely think it's worth a read. This is a young adult murder mystery novel by Holly Jackson. This one is called As Good as Dead, Book 3, and the series is called A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Like I said, I 100% recommend it, because wow. And I think I'm also going to give an in-depth review on the whole entire series, because I read... No. Yeah, because I read the second one in June, and then I read the first one back in November. So, yeah, I'll do an in-depth review of the whole entire trilogy since I'm finally finished it. And I've also means I have finished a series this year. I am proud of myself for that. Yay! Okay, the next book that I want to talk about was part of my reading month for September. I don't have a physical copy of this book because I borrowed this book from a friend, because she just kind of gave it to me and was like, you need to read this. You need to read this. And so I read it. And that book, my friend, and I'll have a picture of it, is called My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. If you haven't read it before, you should, because it is one of the craziest psychological thrillers that I have ever read And this is, I think, was a debut novel by this author. I think she's been putting out books the last few years now, but it is a strong debut if it's her debut, because she really goes into the mind of a serial killer in this book. So, just fair warning, it's dark, and because she like really dives, the author really dives into the way a serial killer would think. And anyway, it's about this couple named, we don't know, it's about this couple who are a team, and it's really weird because there's moments where you're just like, oh, they're a nice couple. They have 2 kids, and it's they're a lovely family. And then you see the darkness because obviously they're a team that like finds these people and then plans on killing them. And oh god, the book is so good. Oh man, I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars because every aspect of this book is just so much fun to learn, and it's crazy, and the twist at the end is freaking ridiculous. I wouldn't have seen it coming. I didn't. I didn't at first. No, I didn't see the twist coming, and I really love that about thrillers. I really enjoyed this one. I don't have a physical copy, like I said, but I am going to reread this book because I enjoyed the heck out of it. So, and that is, again, My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. I might do a review. Actually, I think I'm going to do a review on it because I really enjoyed it so much, and I definitely think it's worth the read for you guys. So it's a thriller that I definitely recommend you read for Halloween as well. Because, oh boy, like I said, it is dark. But it's also fantastic. Alright. The second book I read in the month of September is This Vicious Grace. Now, I technically started this in August, but I didn't quite finish this because, like I said, there's a carryover, or because, like I said, my friend from work just put My Lovely Wife in front of me and was like, you need to read this. And so I put this book down and I started My Lovely Wife at the beginning of September, end of August. Finished it in September. Loved it. And then I read this. This is about a girl named Alessa, who is what they call a fenestra. And what happens with her is, or in this book, our main character, Alessa, is chosen by the gods to become this savior, aka Fenestra. And her main objective is to choose a Fonte, I think is how it's pronounced. And her Fonte are supposed to save the world, like, and lead their people into a war. I forget the name of what they call the major apocalypse thing that they go through every so often in this book, but they face it every 100 years, I think. I can't remember. But like every time there's a new Fenestra, there's a threat of this end of days thing that is supposed to come, and she has to choose someone to become her partner. And what I mean by that is she has to marry this person. Doesn't matter if it's a guy or girl. She just has to have like some sort of her power has to tap into their power, and they have to become one and fight together along with their people to destroy this evil. And the tricky part of it, though, is her touch is lethal. So it hasn't been smooth sailing because her last three partners that she's come close to marrying have been killed by her by accident, like I said, because her touch is lethal. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I really enjoyed this one too. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's a duology, by the way. It's called the... Actually, I don't remember what this series is called. I know it's going to be duology. Book 2 comes out sometime next year. That's all I know. But I love the book without a dust jacket has a picture of a lemon, because like you see the girl on the cover is like about to eat a lemon or peel a lemon or something. I don't know. But this is This Witch's Grace. It's a first book in a duology, which I can't remember the name of. If I do remember the name, I will post it, the name of the series, on the screen here. Anyway, This Vicious Grace was the second book in September that I finished. Alright, you guys, and the third and final book that I finished in September, which is also the last book on this list, is Carval by Stephanie Garber. Carval is the first in a trilogy of the same name, Carval, and it's about two sisters named Donatella and Scarlett, who basically have had a tragic home life because their mother left them, and their father, as a result, turns into this really abusive and ugly person. And they would love nothing more than to escape their father. And every year, though, and escape their father. And they both, our main character, Donatella, one of our characters, Donatella, has a wish to go to this circus called Carval, which is a circus that only appears every now and then. And yeah, because it appears once and then disappears, and it doesn't reappear in the same city twice. And our main characters end up getting invited to Carval, and when they go to Carval, nothing is what it seems, and there's just so much at play in this book. I gave this book 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. This was my second book that I've read from Stephanie Garber. I have a review of Once Upon a Broken Heart, which is this sequel series to this. I did not like Once Upon a Broken Heart that much. I actually have a dedicated review. You can go ahead and check that out. In fact, I'll actually link it below in the description so that you can see it. But yeah, I didn't like Once Upon a Broken Heart that much, but I really enjoyed Carval. And now that I've read Carval, I have somewhat of a context of Once Upon a Broken Heart, but I still didn't like Once Upon a Broken Heart as much as this one. And I'm going to continue reading the trilogy throughout the next month or so. And hopefully I'll finish it because, like I said earlier, when I told you about As Good as Dead, that was the third and final book in that series. And that was the first, as A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. That is the first series I finished this whole year. So I need to step up my game when it comes to series. Get them done. Seriously. Anyway, you guys, that was the conclusion of my wrap-up. And I probably will do a dedicated review for Carval, as well as The Ballad of Never After, which is the sequel to Once Upon a Broken Heart, which I'm hoping it's better. And I might do a vlog for that, for The Ballad of Never After. That was my wrap-up. If you would like to, please give this video a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. That would mean so much to me. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!